Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're doing something that's deeply personal, but also scientifically, well, illuminating. We're taking that fire hose of information you generate every single day, your texts, your DMs, your group chats, and we're going to reveal what science has uncovered about your personality, your intent, and how you connect with people. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? Every time you hit send, you're leaving these tiny little quantifiable clues. The speed of your reply, the length of your message, the specific emojis you pick. Researchers are, they're not just reading your words anymore. They're cataloging these little behaviors to map out how we all interact digitally.
And that's exactly what's so fascinating here. It's this blending of disciplines. This isn't just linguistics. You've got psychologists looking at intent, computer scientists building models, sociologists studying group dynamics, all coming together. They're treating your ordinary, casual conversation, the kind of stuff you never think twice about, as concrete data. It's a genuine window into how we think and feel.
So our mission for you is to cut through all that complexity and give you a shortcut to understanding this emerging science. We're going to explore how decoding your chat habits influences everything from, say, finding a match on a dating app to making your work meetings better. This is the science of the second sentence. Okay, let's unpack this.
To really appreciate where we are today, you have to understand the history of conversation research, which was, frankly, a bit of a nightmare.
A nightmare. How so? Tell me more.
Well, historically, if you wanted to study real-world conversation, how people talk in a meeting or on the phone, you had two huge problems. First, it was invasive. Recording people, even with consent, was just fraught with issues. And second, the data was physically messy. If you got a recording, you then had to manually transcribe everything. You can imagine a team, say, in Berlin, back in the early days of chat. They'd have these huge, unsorted text files. It was a really manual sort of paper and pen slog just to figure out who said what and when.
Wow, I could just picture that. Researchers staring at a screen for hours, manually tagging a 4-second pause or a misplaced comma.
Precisely, and that was a massive barrier. But the modern reality is the game changer. Now, almost every interaction, a dating app chat, a customer service query, a Slack thread, it all happens on a device that saves and timestamps everything automatically. The work that used to take months can now be processed in minutes across millions of interactions.
So that shift from a few manually transcribed chats to millions of data points is what made this field possible. It's what let scientists spot these tiny patterns, like the timing of an emoji or how you close a conversation that were just completely invisible before.
Right.
It basically turned your everyday messaging into this massive, constantly running social lab.
And the scale is what's so critical. It moves us away from just anecdotes and towards, finding genuine, repeatable behaviors about digital connection.
So let's walk through the actual science. How does a scientist take your message, your, hey, want to grab coffee, and turn it into research? It sounds complicated.
It is, but it's a very structured process. The first step is always collection. Researchers gather the raw interaction, data texts, DMs, voice calls, and they look at it in a specific context. Are they studying quick chats or long emails?
Okay, so once they have the data, then it's transcription. If it's a voice call, it gets converted to text with these fancy voice-to-text tools. I imagine that needs a lot of manual checking, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. You're constantly spot checking for errors. But once you have clean text, you move to the most vital step.
Organization.
Organization.
You break the entire conversation into individual turns.
A turn being just a single line from one person.
Exactly. And then you tag it. This is where the detail comes in. You're not just logging the words. You're measuring reply speed, noting where questions are asked, every emoji.
All those paralinguistic features, which we'll get into. Right. And that tagging leads to the next phase, which is analysis. This is where the computers count and compare patterns across thousands of these interactions. They're looking for things like, the frequency of questions versus statements, or the ratio of positive to negative words.
And that data is then used for interpretation. This is the leap from numbers to meaning.
Yeah.
So if person A always waits 45 seconds to reply, what does that mean? Low interest.
It could be. Or maybe they're just thinking carefully. And if they ask 3 follow-up questions, that signals curiosity. Then finally, all of this moves to application. The research paper becomes something useful, like improving a dating app's algorithm or training a customer service team.
So let's make that concrete. In the source material, there's that great little chat example. It's just A says, hey. B says, maybe. What are you thinking? And A replies, coffee or hike, with the little emojis.
That snippet alone gives us so much data. We'd code the exact reply time for B. Let's say it's 45 seconds. That gives us a rhythm baseline.
Okay, a baseline.
A's response, coffee or hike, is tagged as a curiosity signal, an open-ended suggestion. Then we tag those specific emojis, the coffee and the hiking boot, as positive, action-oriented cues.
So you've broken a 10-second chat down into half a dozen quantifiable metrics. And you can compare that against thousands of others to spot trends. That's fascinating.
And that's the foundation of the entire science. Before we go on, though, I should probably mention the ethics here.
Oh, good point.
Researchers absolutely have to respect privacy. All the data is anonymized, and they go through strict ethical reviews, like from an institutional review board, before they can even start collecting personal conversations.
Right. Consent is key.
Always.
Okay, so now let's get to the practical takeaways. This is where those patterns reveal what makes conversations succeed or fail.
Let's start with dating, where the data is surprisingly clear. Curiosity wins. Research from speed dating experiments found that people who asked more follow-up questions were consistently seen as friendlier and, more importantly, more attractive.
But it has to be a follow-up question, right? Not just firing off random questions. You're building on what they just said.
Exactly. And the finding is so precise, asking just one extra follow-up question in a 5-minute chat significantly improved the chances of a second date.
Just one.
Just one. The psychology is simple, really. You're signaling that you're invested, that you're listening. You didn't just hear them, you processed what they said and wanted to know more.
So the lesson for you listening is don't just go through a checklist. Instead of, what do you do? And then jumping to the next question, if they say they work in finance, try something like, what's the most interesting part of that for you?
That simple pivot shows genuine engagement. The data proves it has a huge effect.
Now, moving from dating to work meetings, the research on virtual calls showed that rhythm is everything. We all felt that, right? That tiny lag on a video call. Well, those tiny distortions in rhythm can seriously reduce the flow of ideas.
It's true. The result is measurable. Teams on those broken rhythm calls had a noticeable drop in creative output compared to when they were in person. That sort of collaborative spark just fizzles out.
So the tip here is to be more deliberate. Maybe try shorter speaking rounds or use specific prompts to bounce ideas back and forth so that quick exchange doesn't die.
And that focus on timing and structure is huge in customer service, too. Analysts found that the first 15 seconds of an interaction and the final wrap-up strongly shape the customer's entire perception of the experience.
That makes sense. The opening sets the tone, and the close confirms you actually solved the problem.
Exactly. For instance, just a simple closing like, thanks, can I just confirm that solved the issue for you? That boosts satisfaction ratings way more than just saying, bye.
There was also really compelling data on persuasion in online forums. The idea of mirroring someone's communication style.
It's a powerful rapport builder. People were found to be up to 30% more persuasive when they subtly mirrored the vocabulary or even the sentence structure of the person they were talking to.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. If someone writes, I'm thinking we should approach this differently, and you reply, you're thinking a different approach would work. I agree, because that little bit of mirroring builds a sense of familiarity really fast.
Wow. And this research even applies to really high-stakes situations, like police interactions.
It does. Analyses of body cam footage, which is a fascinating use of this science, suggested that officers who interrupted less were rated as more respectful and fair.
Even if the outcome was the same.
Even if the outcome was exactly the same. The common theme across all these findings is that these aren't big strategic changes. They are small conversational moves, asking a follow-up, pausing, mirroring a word, that have these huge effects on connection and perception.
The question then becomes, how do researchers scale this up? How do they go from timing a few interruptions to analyzing a million conversations? The answer is software, right? Natural language processing, or NLP.
NLP is the engine. It's software that's designed to help computers process and understand human language. And it doesn't just read the words. It analyzes all that other data we've been talking about. Reply time, question frequency, word choice, but at a massive scale.
It takes those tiny signals, like the haha count you mentioned, and finds meaning in them.
It does. I mean, some studies have linked how often you use different kinds of digital laughter, like haha, versus the crying, laughing emoji, to specific personality traits, like openness or lower social anxiety. It's like a behavioral signature.
And it's not just the words. Researchers are focused on what they call paralinguistic features. This is the stuff around the text.
Yes, the digital tone of voice, the body language of text.
So things like a coded laughter tag, or a pause, or even just repeated punctuation.
Exactly. And those features are often more revealing than the literal words. For instance, frequent digital sighing, very long pauses between turns, has been linked in some studies to fatigue or low mood. The computer is learning how to read the subtext hidden in just a few characters.
But I have to ask, what about bias? If the AI is only trained on data from one culture or region, couldn't it misread things?
That is the critical question. AI is only as fair as the data you feed it. If it's mainly trained on one group's slang or communication norms, it will absolutely misread others. That's why scientists have to be so deliberate about training and testing their models across very diverse data sets.
So let's bring this all together. What do all these discoveries mean for the companies and platforms that build the digital spaces we live in?
Well, it fundamentally changes the landscape. One huge application is safety. If you can identify the conversational patterns that predict, say, a rapid escalation into hostile language, then an algorithm can flag that interaction in real time. It lets human moderators step in much, much earlier.
So it moves moderation from being reactive to being predictive.
Exactly. It also has a massive impact on connection. If we know follow-up questions build rapport, designers can add little nudges, maybe a suggested follow-up question prompt or reaction buttons that encourage more thoughtful replies.
And of course, there's engagement, keeping people on the platform.
Right. These insights show what keeps people coming back. If the conversation flows well, if curiosity is encouraged, if people feel heard, the community thrives.
So where is this all headed?
Well, the next big breakthrough might not be in faster chips, but in better conversations. People are studying how virtual reality changes chat dynamics and the huge project of building AI companions that can genuinely understand human empathy.
This has shown that even our simplest messaging habits say so much about us. Whether you reply instantly or you wait 20 minutes to craft the perfect response, it's all measurable. But I think the most powerful takeaway is the proof that simple conversational generosity like asking one extra question really works.
I agree. Technology has given us these amazing tools to analyze connection and misunderstanding with a detail we've never had before. Every chat is a tiny piece of social science, just waiting to tell us something new.
So next time you hit send, remember you're taking part in this huge ongoing experiment in human communication. And here's a little challenge for you this week. Try that simple behavioral tweak we talked about. Ask one extra follow-up question in a conversation. Notice not just how the other person responds, but how that subtle shift changes the way you feel about the connection you're making.